After my mother's funeral, a crash echoed through the room as the painting slipped from my hands and shattered against the floor. "You deserve nothing but this trash," my husband sneered, venom dripping from every word. The frame splintered at the corner, and something small slid out, clinking against the hardwood. A brass key, aged, heavy, cool against my palm. Daniel stormed out, still grumbling about how my sister had inherited 3 houses while I was left with garbage. I just stood there, staring at that key, my chest tightening. The fractured frame revealed more, a folded piece of paper wedged into the backing. I pulled it free. A map. And a name I hadn't heard spoken in years. Daniel. I met him when I was 21. He had the easy charm of a man who had never once been told no. He told me I was grounded, untouched, like some rare treasure he'd stumbled across. I mistook that for love. I thought I had found safety. 4 years, I played my role, dutiful wife, steady partner. But little cracks appeared. His sharp recoil when I mentioned certain words. Bank statements that never added up. The locked drawer in his study I was never allowed to touch. When my mother died, I thought he'd console me. Instead, he tallied her estate like an accountant hungry for numbers. And when all I received was a single painting instead of land or money, he dismissed it as worthless. He didn't know my mother. He didn't know what she hid. The map led me downtown, to a bank. Safety deposit box. X173. I told Daniel I was meeting a friend. No perfume. No makeup. Nothing that would stir suspicion. The brass key slid into place perfectly. Inside, I found stacks of ledgers, property deeds, and, most precious of all, a letter written in my mother's familiar hand. She had known about Daniel long before I did. She wrote about men like him, who drain the life and resources of those closest to them. She had moved her assets, 3 rental homes, a significant savings account, into a private trust under my name, inaccessible until after her death. Her warning was simple. Never let him near it. Never tell him it exists. For the first time in months, I felt my pulse calm. I didn't confront him. I didn't change a thing. I let him believe I was defeated. Daniel grew careless. He spent more, drank more, partied harder. Business trips piled up, along with perfume traces on his shirts and hotel bills charged to cards I never touched. I collected it all, receipts, emails, time-stamped records. My mother's trust became my shield. The evidence I gathered became my blade. Quietly, I hired a lawyer in an office Daniel would never pass. I handed her everything. She smiled the way surgeons do before excising a tumor. We built the case carefully. Concealed accounts, infidelity, reckless financial neglect. We waited. Waited until his spending peaked. Until arrogance blinded him completely. Then we struck. The morning he was served, Daniel laughed in my face. "You won't win. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine." I looked at him calm. "We'll see." In court, my lawyer presented our evidence like a crime novel, each page more damning than the last. Wire transfers to another woman. Properties bought under her name. My inheritance funneled into gambling debts. Except, thanks to my mother, he had never touched the true assets. The judge's expression hardened as the story unfolded. When the ruling came, Daniel's smirk vanished. His properties, gone. His accounts, frozen. Years of alimony owed. The trust, untouchable. But that wasn't the true victory. 2 weeks later, the woman he'd been seeing appeared at my door. She had been his promised future, the one he'd spun lies for. But now she knew. He had nothing left to give her. I handed her copies of the court records. "He'll try to blame me. But the truth is here." Her face shifted, rage first, then grim satisfaction. She left with the papers, and I knew Daniel would never see her again. I sold the painting at auction, for more than Daniel had earned in an entire year. The frame still bore its crack. The brass key I kept. Some people keep trophies from battles won. I keep reminders. Daniel thought the day of my mother's funeral marked my lowest point. He was wrong. It was the day she armed me. People sometimes ask if I think of him now. I don't. Not because I've forgotten, but because that chapter is closed. I don't replay endings I've already written. I only remember walking out of that courthouse, my mother's letter tucked safely in my purse, my future finally mine again. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's as quiet as the click of a lock turning in your hand.